Hello, Dream Team. I hope you're keeping well. The band is back together once again. Welcome along to The Good, the Bad and the Rugby. We are filling the cup with positivity this week because, a little story for you. I did Richard Wigglesworth's testimonial a couple of weeks ago, and as I left, one of the game's power brokers muttered and sighed into his glass of red wine that everyone in rugby is talking the game down all of the time at the moment. And when you look at it, it is pretty hard not to disagree. The headlines are coming thick and fast. This season alone, we've had bankrupt clubs, we've had player exodus, we've got a concussion lawsuit, sexism in the WRU, we've got player strikes, referees abuse, sacked coaches, TMO, endless TMO interventions, red card controversies, and a never-ending global debate around the season's structure. You get the picture, I'm sure. Hask and Tins are alongside.
Hi.
Bonjour.
How are you, fellas? As such, it's very easy to forget about the things that we love about rugby union, and so we thought we'd spend a quick hour going through a top 10 of the things that we love about the egg. So this week, in the aftermath of a belting Men's Six Nations, in the middle of what is a fabulous women's tournament, and in the run-up to the end of season, and with a World Cup on the horizon, we thought we'd take stock, pop on some rose-tinted glasses, and remind ourselves why we tune in, pop on our boots, buy tickets, raise a glass, and press record every Monday. This is the show that is 10 things we love about rugby in no particular order, but we'll start with number 10, which is, I'm going for it, national anthems, which is a slightly curious one. I'm working from 10 to 1 up the ladder, but I think when you talk of Alan Wynne, Sia Khaleesi, am I going off on my own?
No.
Alan
No,
Wynne,
so nervous now.
Sia Khaleesi, Flower of Scotland, La Marseillaise, Lawrence, Bruno, Nero, Delali. I'm not sure anyone's ever done an anthem shot quite as well as Big Lol. Ken Owens, Castro and Parise, Ireland's Call, Nkosi Sikalele, Mike Katz Earlobe, a Pack Principality, even God Defend New Zealand, which then leads into the Hacker. I don't think any other sport does anthems as well as rugby.
I agree. They are fantastic.
And that comes back to what is also brilliant about rugby is because it means something to everyone who dons the shirt, and it still does, always has. It comes from its grassroots level of going all the way up to the top, and it's a great way of starting an international match, is where you can see on people's faces how much it means.
I mean, the passion is unrivaled. I mean, Lawrence's ability to cry on command when the red light and the camera came past is a trick that only porn stars can perform similar feats when they press record and get your body to react in that way.
Yeah.
Light on, hard. Light on, crying. Not unless a porn movie. That'd be a very odd movie. Sorry, different movie.
Lawrence hard, Lawrence not hard. I also think there is something about a national anthem that can change the course of the day. So I think of you going for the Grand Slam in 2013 with England. You went down to Cardiff. Everyone expected England to win. The anthem was a game changer. The whole momentum swung. I even think back to the Gabba in 2001 and the Lions fans drowning out Australia's national anthem. I throw in England, New Zealand in 2019. I'm looking at the Hacker.
Yes.
And suddenly I think that just lays down the marker.
But also this year with England, Wales, and how the fact that sort of the Sweet Chariot was louder than anything that was sung by the Welsh fans for the first time ever.
I do think fans
the tone of where the fans actually believe that they are as well.
I agree.
You know what? Obviously, that's been well documented that thing in New Zealand in 2019 was a complete balls up. They didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, they were trying to do a semicircle, weren't they?
Yeah.
They ended up with an arrowhead, and Marlon was on the wrong side of it as well.
The greatest bit of psychological pre-match sort of skullduggery was a complete incompetent accent because people didn't know what a semicircle was.
But isn't that great?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the story of sport. That's why rugby's so good. I would say the anthems are fantastic because why? Because people actually sing them. Other sports don't really sing them, do they? It's like an art.
You think
they sort of
cricket and football, there's a bit of muttering.
Yeah, not really for me. I always used to belt it out. Unfortunately, of all the many talents I have, I cannot sing in any way, shape. I can't even carry a note.
Really?
I was the only kid at school not to get into the second choir. There was a guy that was mute and he could get into the choir. I couldn't do it. I had to do a singing lesson. They were like,
God, the symbol at the back.
It was. I always used to do it where I'd sing really loudly, and then as the camera came, I'd mouth really loudly. I pretend I was singing really loudly just so it did not pick up my voice.
I never cried during the anthems.
Did you not?
No.
Do you wish you could have done?
I think crying was quite nice. I showed some everyone turns it on. That makes it sound like everyone.
No, I didn't cry. I was never that.
It's got to be natural.
I was very.
Did anyone in that, other than Lawrence, Bruno, Nero, Delali, does anyone cry?
I don't think so.
No.
In other nations, they do. In great
Yeah, I mean,
great
Italians.
emotion.
Well, it's the Latin temperament, doesn't it?
Yeah.
French and
Yes.
Italy. That was just that very
Even a lot
emotional.
of South Africans. Sia goes hard at it.
Yes, I think that's God related.
I think it's a personal journey thing as well, though, isn't it? I think if it springs a chord that's got an emotional attachment, it's gonna.
Yeah. Okay, I think national anthems is a nice place to start.
What's Mike Catt's earlobe?
So
Let's
he always
say
used
hello to
to.
his family,
Every time the
Oh.
camera went past, he'd rub his earlobe to say hello to his family.
I think I've told this story, but when I first made my debut in 2007, I winked when the camera came past as a 21-year-old, and I thank God now that the social media didn't exist, because the hammering I would have got to go with all the other stupid things.
Why did you do that though?
I don't know. Just thought I was the boy, didn't I? Playing for England, it's like, go on.
Do you regret doing that?
Yes, like a lot of things in my life, I regret. Like a lot of mistakes and most of my thought process is, I tell you what, this will be a good idea. The lads will love it, and the lads always love it. But then it always ends up in tears, flames, and distraught moments.
What is the best anthem in international rugby?
I think
Stadium, occasion,
La Marseille.
anthem. It has to be a night game.
Yes, everyone gets really excited about the Welsh. I love the Irish because just of the tune of it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I think I used to not like God Save the Queen, now God Save the King, just because it was a bit sort of. The other ones are like really interesting brass bands. The Italians, everyone's really passionate. But then when you think about it, ours, just sort of typically English or particularly British. Just here it is. Shut your fucking mouth. Take save the Queen, save the King, or we'll burn your place down.
Right.
And we've sort of proven
I
that.
haven't heard those. That must be the third verse, is it?
But you know what I mean? It's sort of kind of quite direct, isn't it? Whereas everything else got some flamboyant thing. And most of people's anthems are in a response to 800 years of empire building for us. Basically,
Send them homeward.
There's a jibe. There's a jibe to everybody else. Everybody. There's a jibe to England and everybody else's anthem, essentially. Yeah. Whereas ours just like, here we are, England, British, come on, get on with it. Love the Queen, save her. Great. Thanks, God.
What is the best anthem? Because this is going to be divisive, and everyone can leave their own comments.
The Welsh national anthem at the Principality on an evening kickoff against England, where they actually believe they're going to win. Or they think it's going to be is hard to beat, but Flower of Scotland is probably my favourite.
Yeah, Flower of Scotland's great.
Yeah.
Problem is, it's never that great at Murrayfield. I think Flower of Scotland
somewhere. Rusting old stadium.
Yeah, that's the
Do
problem.
you like Flower of Scotland with the lone piper on the roof and then no musical accompaniment in the second verse?
Yeah,
you
do like all that.
I quite like that.
That's going to
go. I like the cannons and the mist that they fire up there. Yeah, it might just be the fact it's raining.
The dreams coming in off the seat.
Yeah. But also, if Murrayfield wasn't so far away from the field, it would be much better.
I do think the Grand Slam decider that we were at, France-England last year, was very special. Stade de France. Light show, fireworks.
They've all got something different, whether it be Marseille or whether it be the Italian national anthem.
I quite like that one.
Yeah.
New Zealand, I like. Australia.
Australia's a bit too.
It's a bit of a
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are young and free.
It's true, you can't sing.
It's true. It's awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Australia's
a little bit
serenading
like
at the
all
window.
things bright and beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
Imagine I was like Romeo and Juliet and I went to serenade her. She just threw herself off the balcony.
Rapunzel, you've jumped.
Yeah. Rapunzel, let your whole body down.
She would be. She'd be looking down.
Oh, yeah, she with the barnet.
Yeah.
The biscuit.
Not for long.
Not for long.
The other thing, actually, I would just say on anthems is when there is no crowd, thinking Lions in 2021, you just recognise just how much you miss.
Yeah.
Do you know what the worst bit about anthems was when you played the under-19s, under-21s, they would often be played from a cassette, and you'd be in a stadium, and it would just and it would like rewind. But then someone would play the two verses or the introduction to God Save the Queen. So you'd start God Save the Queen, and then it would go again. That would really because you wouldn't so disconcerting, and then you just hear it, and then they'd press play, and someone would forget to put the fader up, so it'd start midway through the other way. Just awful. So my experience of anthems until I got to sing the first one at the Principality in 2007 was like, these are awful. You did feel impassioned, but normally it was a joke, and the spool would run out, or the needle would skip on the record.
You've got a fair point there about I think it's changed now, but at lower level at the start, your Colts and your under
toilet
18s,
people were crying at that. I was crying because it was that bad, And there's like, no one communicated. Like, we'd have to go. Are we doing the 3 verses 2? I didn't even know there were more verses. Oh God, say the Queen, King, Queen, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anthems in at number 10. Number 9, I've got Hong Kong Sevens, And I'll give you an argument as to why.
Never been.
Yeah.
Been invited twice.
How much would you like to go?
I think
I got selected 3 times to play. Wasp wouldn't let me go every single time. And then one time I did get a chance to play. I was selected to play in that team against the Lions. I had to have knee surgery.
That's not sevens.
No, but still
In
Hong Kong at
Sorry,
the 7
right,
Stadium.
okay,
But I got invited 3 times to play, but Wasp wouldn't let me go.
it was a great game to play, and we lost 76-0 or whatever we lost.
Yeah.
It was
You played in that, didn't you?
Yeah, and I've never lost so much fluid in a game.
that
ever.
sounded awful. Not great for the bigger gentleman as well, running around there. 2 tugboats just chugging around with petty flu pots for lungs.
No, and just sweating out vodka and gin.
That's
never
great.
good.
And then, but I've also been invited there to DJ twice, and that dastardly COVID got in the way. And they're still wearing masks over there now, so you can't do it. They haven't really.
I mean, there's not many places that can command David Hasselhoff to turn off and sing to the South Stand, is there?
No.
I mean, that's unbelievable, isn't it?
So my argument on the Hong Kong Sevens is I think it is rugby's greatest party.
Yes.
And I think in a world in which everybody is buckling their knee to the family friendly, and actually if you think we were talking about this the other day at Wellington Sevens, I had a mate who once had a very good 20 minutes with someone he met in the stand inside one of those Duff beer costumes.
What, both of them got inside the Duff beer
in the
costume?
middle of a game? Yeah, I mean
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you think back to what Twickenham used to be, which was just sort of chaos. And it wasn't very family friendly, but it was chaos. And if you went, you knew what you were getting yourself into.
Clive was trying to ban alcohol now, so it's going to become even more pedestrian.
What I love, therefore, about the Hong Kong Sevens is that it will not bend its knee to anybody. It refuses to be anything other than utter debauchery. And actually, Rob Vickerman was out there working this weekend, because obviously it's just been and gone. And he said it's almost the more pressure that comes on the 7 circuits around the world, the more
it gets.
Hong Kong has to kind of hold its end up. And he said it's just absolute chaos and carnage.
HSBC asked me to go and DJ there, but then they wouldn't. You had to be there for like a week and a half quarantine beforehand. I couldn't do it because of the tour, which is a shame. But I will get out there at one point unless I get cancelled in the interim period.
GBNR should be out there.
Yeah.
We should do
the
that.
South Stand.
But also, the thing is now, because rugby, because I said the banning alcohol, because that someone threw up on that kid, didn't they, at the Principality?
Right.
His first rugby game, some sort of horror story. Some Welsh fan just vomited up bread, I imagine, because bread
Heavenly bread.
heavenly bread on top of a child. So and there were more fights at Twickenham. I think the odd bust-up's quite acceptable.
Well, that's what you and Eddie Hearn were getting into last week.
Tim's got involved in it at Wembley.
Yeah.
Save them 2 bloodied men.
I wouldn't want it to get that.
No, we don't want that. We don't want that.
But the other
I
thing
don't
about
think it ever would.
Because posh people don't really fight, do they?
No.
Just pull each other and get dueling pistols.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
they
get someone else to do it
they
for
get
them.
the gloves out and
I'd love
rearrange
that.
it.
Imagine you
for-
had a duel. Just
re-
saw 2 people in the
rearrange
car park shoot
you
each other.
rearrange it at dawn, though, don't you?
Yeah.
Shoot each other.
Pistols at dawn.
Fucking
Like
love that.
mist. The other thing about the Sevens is that the fortunes of the Sevens game has fluctuated quite significantly. But if you think of Hong Kong, you have had the great and the good who have had some remarkable days there. I remember watching Lomu, Cullen, Serevi, William Ryder, even Ben Gollings.
What happened to William Ryder, by the
Ollie
way?
Phillips. Well, he was. I think he tried 15s and then sort of never really.
Because he was unbelievable.
again.
He just one day just disappeared.
Eric Rush, Dan Norton.
Yeah.
Some amazing players.
Dan
Did either of
Norton.
you? Did you play England Sevens?
Yes.
How many tournaments did you do?
South Africa, Dubai, but I got selected for Hong Kong 3 times, Wellington twice, Las Vegas twice. Wasp never let me go.
Well, I can see why Vegas was off the map. But
Basically, just let me out of the house was off the map normally.
Yeah. Would you have ever come close to doing Hong Kong Sevens?
No, because basically it.
Basically, he had square wheels instead of round ones.
Yeah. I reckon, but originally, if you look back,
You'd
to
have been a good prop in
Sevens. When it started and Lol played and Josie played, but
Like
then
a Sheesby.
Sheesbees.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of when I was 21, I started playing for 20. I was involved with England, and it sort of took that completely off the thing.
Because that's where professionalism has removed the ability. Because you speak to a lot of the old boys,
They can do both,
and they would go and do both, and it would just be a
100%.
treat.
I think it's a big mistake not using sevens as a vehicle for player development. I know it's a different game now because it's become more fit, but parachuting a young players who haven't had any experience into a couple of tournaments, test out their individual skills and their core skills, exposed to a level they'll never get in 15s.
Right.
For me, that was the best. Especially I had a great coach. I had Mike Friday. I had Terry Sands as manager. Sands, what a boy. And Phil Greening.
Yeah.
So it just, an unbelievable kind of...
Phil's a brilliant guest
if
on this,
anyone can
actually.
teach you how to enjoy Hong Kong, it's Phil Green.
Oh, yeah.
Or just life in general.
I remembered I once went with Phil Greening to Tobago to coach kids when I was 18. And I remember that one of the amazing people I was coaching gave me a Bible. And she just said, "Look, you just swear too much. I think you need to find the path of God." The idea was that it could have really helped, and maybe if I'd chosen that path, it would have been way better.
Only you'd opened Genesis chapter 1,
I
parable
did.
1,
I know
or
about
whatever.
that bit. Everyone knows about Genesis.
She threw it in the bed and went the other way.
As Ricky Gervais said, God created, right, the moon and the stars, and then he said, "Let there be light." He did all that in the dark, the first part. How fucking clever is that? That's even better than, that's even more mental than anything.
What you've done very nicely there is segue from Hong Kong Sevens in at number 9 to number 8 on my list of the top 10 favourite things. And by all means, you can cancel and chip in, and please feel free to contribute. Rugby Tours.
Yeah. I mean, that Tobago tour, I remember, Phil sat me down, I must have been only 17, 18, and he said that, like, being drunk is a mindset, and that you either accept it or not. And he just made me drink opposite him, and I said, I can't do anymore. He's like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. I think one of the next day was the worst hangover I've ever had. And then he woke me up and made me go training. Right. Maybe train.
How is Tobago rugby going on these days? Off the back
I think it's quite good, actually.
What was your legacy off the back of that event?
I tell you what, at Twickenham, the massive security guard.
Yes.
Bear.
What, the one that doesn't like you very much?
No, that's the other one.
Is that the one that keeps hoiking you out every time you go pitchside?
I don't know what that guy's problem is, honestly. But then he asked me for favours. I'm like, keeps asking me for accreditation, trying to throw me out. And I said to him, how do you think I got down by the pitch? Well, don't you think people would have noticed that I'd broken into it? No, the other massive guy, Bear, giant man, I coached him in Tobago.
In Tobago?
Yeah, but then he's come over and he's like head steward at Twickenham. He is literally like a mountain.
Love it.
With a face.
Right.
With a face.
Best tours? Amateur, under 18s.
I was going to say we did have a good under 18s tour to. You
had a good squad then, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a very good tour.
Was that to Australia?
That's why Wilco never invites me to do a Q&A on stage.
Because you know.
He knows.
He knows.
I know.
Oh, is that before he reinvented himself?
Yes,
I don't drink.
He did take the Bible.
Yeah, he did. I didn't.
Yeah, he took the. It wasn't named the Bible then. It was. I can't remember what his agent's called. It was the Tim Buttermore Bible. It was. I think.
Argentina was great until we discovered that the fines committee had been religiously fining everyone throughout this under-19s, under-21 tour. Then when we went to the strip club and they spent all the money, they wrote money on themselves and private dances, so we never saw any of it. It was the most corrupt fines committee ever. But all the money got spent. I wouldn't know because they spent the money. It was no. Okay, can I have a go on the kitty? No. So that was
called Kitty.
What was good about schoolboy tours is you were billeted as well.
Yeah.
So it was proper down and dirty.
When you billeted with someone, I've got complete. Oh no, it's David Pocock was billeted with
somebody,
Simon Zebo or something like that when they were 15 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. Was billeting a bonus or was that a bit of a...
It depends what the family was like, but that was part of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And finding out where it all landed. We stayed in Sydney. I stayed with a great family who... There is someone who did play pro who I ended up staying with.
I knew there was. I can't
remember who it was. But it just the carnage that it led to, and because you'd all like travel around to meet each other, because they were all mates, and you just ended up like massive piss ups, good times, sometimes bad times, end up in a fight or something like that.
Well, me and Crofty stole that boat in Vichy, thinking it was a really good idea. It's like, we'll steal a boat here. Got onto a boat and we're rowing it out the middle, and we realised we were both really, really drunk. And it was a rowing boat. I couldn't really row properly. Once we'd stopped laughing, we realised we're in the middle of this reservoir. No one knew we were on there, and we're like, we should probably just take this back then, shall we?
Realised that is it a joke? It's funny because no one's going to see it.
Is it a joke if no one's watching?
That's what I mean.
Like the trees make noise if they fall
and
in the
then as we went to paddle it back, there's a dock, and I leapt out the boat, and Crofty got caught, and it pushed him under the dock. So, there's a big gap. So he was trapped underneath it, having to pull himself out like a miner escaping a tunnel. So, yeah, that was about as exciting as he got there.
I once went on a tour with Edinburgh Ackies to Kirby Lonsdale, who were actually in the papers the other day because they lost 198-0, bizarrely. And I just remember one of the guys, I can't remember if I've told this before, on the bus back on the Sunday night, fell asleep and lost both of his eyebrows, and he was starting a new job on the Monday. Just a great way to begin. Anyway, he put probably 3 months into growing them back, and then on the way back from an away game, fell asleep again, lost his eyebrows again.
Someone we've worked with, actually.
Sort of repetitive gag that keeps on giving. What goes on tour stays on tour. Hopefully viewers, listeners would agree. You'll all have your own memories. Tour tales always welcome.
That trip to Sydney 2010, even though they weren't prostitutes, but the story was quite good. Do you remember? But luckily we beat Australia. You never had such a low moment when Martin Johnson's pinned you up against the wall of the toilet. Go, were you on a boat? Were you on a boat with prostitutes? No. Did you pay anyone? No. Did you sleep with anyone? No, I didn't. Doz is like that, waving, going, stop. stop. When they were just PR ladies in who were serving drinks, but. It's a long story, but yeah.
But it's always easier when you're winning.
Yeah.
If you're
That's
winning,
what I mean.
yes.
Always works. I always say that 2003 we're out more than any tour that we've been out of at the Rugby World Cup. We won it, so no one gave a flying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there was also no camera phone, so it always makes it easier.
This is very yes.
Yeah.
Now you be dust.
And actually, there is there any other sport that does tours as well as rugby?
Well, back
Cricket?
in the day, the Lions used to go away for 6 months. Do you know they used to have children abroad?
Yeah.
They used to, yeah. They used to have to have one of them telephones.
Bye, love.
Operator, can I speak to 243? You know, they're mad.
Cricket would do at the senior level, but I think cricket is so long, you almost lose the will to live.
Yeah, but they got on the piss, don't they? Remember, is that one of those, I don't know, it's a Phil Tufnell said, you want to talk about pressure, you know, try drinking 20 pints the night before and having a curry and standing on the boundary in the baking sun trying not to shit yourself for fucking 6 hours. That's pressure.
Yeah. But I do think that's why like rugby and cricket are quite well aligned, is they both tour well.
Yeah.
So you meet a lot of the lads and they're all very similar.
2011 was an awful tour, wasn't it? That was.
We had Bairstow in the green room at Cheltenham, and he was ungrateful, but he's actually got to start concentrating.
Is his ankle better, Johnny?
Yeah, he's
Bairstow?
almost back
almost
to being
there.
fit. Yeah,
In a golfing incident.
yeah.
I think the
Amazing
lowest
scenes.
moment is when someone put a deer's head in the car park and some kids
Yeah, I
found
was
it. That
torn,
on
yeah.
one tour, that wasn't
Yeah.
great.
What?
Yeah. So boys went shooting and they shot illegally, not just like out the window.
Right.
Shot a deer. It was obviously butchered and appropriately used. But one of the boys decided to bring the head back to put in one of the boys' bedroom.
Thought it'd be a good idea to maybe either bring it back and get it taxidermied and mounted, and then realised how much hassle it would be.
So rugby.
Thought it'd be, yeah.
Yeah, and they just tried to put it in one of Ashton's room, but the security wouldn't let him, so he just left it in the car park, and a children's a family found it. Not as bad as when I actually landed, and within 2 hours I saw someone walk past with a poo in a towel to put in someone's room, and I was like, "Are we on a lad stag do, or are we on a World Cup tour?
We
Yeah,
landed somewhere in Eastern Europe.
We're in Kavos." Yeah.
Amazing where elite level sport will take you. Rugby Tours in at number 8. I've thrown in growth of the women's game at 7
Very
because
topical.
there are obviously challenges around rugby at the moment, but the women's side of the sport is flying. Would you agree with that? Would you go with me on that?
No, I would agree with that on numerous reasons, because we need counter reactions to all the negativity that's out there, and by getting more women, the women's game growing, more women playing, ultimately more families will be based at club rugby if we can get more female participation, which will mean that more kids will be there as well in the longer if more women like playing rugby, rather than a lot of blame falls on mums for not letting their kids go play rugby because they're worried about getting hurt. So on the alter side, if there's more women playing it, you'll find more local grassroots clubs with more kids there and more women who want to help out and trying to get the men back in there as well.
I found it the most very positive experience, like a completely different atmosphere to men's games. Really positive, really light, really enjoyable, really fun. Very kind of what rugby should be.
Yeah.
Not overtly commercial. Absolutely loved it.
If you did a Netflix documentary on women's rugby now, it'd be amazing, because they just want to give as much access, and they want to. They understand they've got to promote the hell out the game at the moment, and they've got to be open books. And then you see all the characters that they've got.
I actually liked Eddie Hearn's point last week as well, as around the fact that women's sport has got to stand up on its own, and there's absolutely no doubt that women's rugby is doing exactly that. And you think of some of the headlines recently. Eden Park sold out for the Black Ferns Rugby World Cup win last year. Twickenham sales are rocketing for England against France. They're going to have a bigger crowd at Twickenham than they were at Eden Park, which is going to be a new record crowd.
Do you reckon it'll be a sellout? Hopefully it will be a sellout.
God, it'd be good if it will.
I think it's going to be very, very close.
Do you think it will?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a
would be amazing.
remarkable storyline.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable turnaround in 2 years.
Because I mean, I know I bang on about it, but I did the 2010 Women's World Cup at Guildford Sports Park in Surrey. There were 50 people there for the pool.
Your career hasn't really peaked since that moment, has it?
Back on Channel 5 in May. Hold on, everybody.
Lovely.
Not as big a game as the England-France game in this is Six Nations. Record crowd for Wales women's home fixture in Wales 2 weekends ago. Elma went with GSR. And you mentioned that Newcastle occasion for Sarah Hunter's farewell. Not only was that a record crowd or a packed crowd at Kingston Park, but also, Sunta was on every single sports page and on Radio 4 in the morning, etc.
And she was thanked in Parliament.
Was she really?
Yeah, by Rishi. Yeah.
God,
Really?
That's unbelievable. You didn't get that,
So
Hask.
yeah.
Didn't get
It
anything.
was some sort of select committee. But actually, funny enough, even when
Or
we
an
look
inquiry. If anyone's ever talking about me, it's an inquiry and an investigation.
that is very true. But even when you look at the growth of Good Scouts Rugby, we've got more brands interested in working with the girls than
funny
that might be something to do with you, I think. But it's
probably,
all the numbers are trending upwards.
Yeah,
for Elmer and Scouts and Mo, which is very exciting. So long may that continue, and I think they continue to inspire. It's just great fun to follow. There are big. I think I was going to say bigger characters. There are characters who are able to say more within the women's game than we see in the men's game.
Yes, I think that's right. I just think, I mean, at the moment, there just isn't the level of scrutiny. I think it's very positive. I think you're noticing now that I'm asking much more difficult questions and putting a bit more pressure on because it's becoming more well-known.
But I think they've started from a better position. So I think they're encouraged to show their personalities. And whereas you go back to rugby built on this, the men's game built on this sort of archaic amateur era where you never give up your station or you get punched in the face, and they just haven't had that, and it's a great thing that they haven't had. So it's really expanding in this sort of era of embrace everyone's differences. So it's the perfect time for them to just go be themselves, be who they are, and everyone will get on board with it.
With more to come as well, because every team in the Six Nations has now got some sort of contracts offered to their players. That's a long way from where they were in the not too recent past, actually. And we've potentially got the Lionesses tour coming as well. So there's a lot more growth to come. And we're talking about Wales, actually, who are a side that is making real progress. And congratulations to them. England take on Wales this weekend. And if you haven't, therefore, listened to this week's The Good, the Scouts and the Rugby in partnership with Vodafone, make sure you do, because Elmer has been in camp with the Wales ladies. And this week also out is the Scotland Harlequins and RAF lock, Sarah Bonner, who joins Scouts and Elmer for a chinwag in the studio. And that is another good one if you haven't already. We've had a really big uptick in what the Good Scouts Rugby girls are doing. So if you haven't listened, please do. There's a lot to enjoy over with the ladies. I'm going to come in at number 6 with...
Coming in with my one out. This is what I was going to throw in there.
Okay, well, why didn't you take number 6 then?
I would say... is local grassroots rugby, and where it is, if you go back in there, and the characters and everything that is rugby, in terms of, you might not like it or not, but it's a social sport that was built on a social club, social interaction, meant having a drink, having a beer, but then the kids are there picking up all the kit, they're set about their chores, and everyone chips in. And I think that is the basis of where we want all our players to come from, and that's where they've got to learn their basics, because that then keeps the referee as God on the pitch in terms of paying him the respect he deserves and him having the power that he should have, and then sets the right ethos for any kid that's coming through on work rate, working in a team, resilience,
sportsmanship.
Because still there are old dads who just still want the pound of flesh out their sons, so they'll make them work for it.
Quite right. I'm going to ask you about Grassroots.
Typical this weekend. First time, it's so hard to get my kids to go to rugby. They're like, I don't want to go. Both of them came down dressed for rugby on this Sunday morning. Waterlogged pitch, fucking cancelled. I was
kidding,
you are kidding me. Yeah.
That is brutal. So we have definitely crossed that divide with Harry in Richmond, and it is now,
get me there.
but
Dad,
boots out the night before, ready to go.
But he's on fire, son.
Well, he's just sort of...
I know you're not like pushy dad.
No, definitely not.
We're not sure he's his son if he's doing
Oh, yeah,
he is. He's a big lump as well.
Wait. He's athletic, funny, engaging, has discernible muscle.
And doesn't know any sponsorship of any Premiership
doesn't know the timelines.
He plays a good game rather than talks it, so he'll be all right.
No, but he, honestly, every video you showed me, he's unbelievable.
He's just ticking along.
No, but he just doesn't ever talk about
No, he's not.
It's like different. It's like odd dads. Eddie Hearn's like make some work. You make work. He's just like, if they just want to be okay, then be okay. It's like, he's great. Just own it. Don't worry about it.
But the point I was going to make is that it is a brilliant setup. It's a phenomenal set of coaches. It's the helpers who pull the whole thing together. We're talking about tours. They're all going on tour at the end of April. Unfortunately, we can't go because Harry's got school and cricket and things. But actually, there's a lot of there's a lot of very bad behaviour from the grown-ups rather than the kids. I think
I've
broken ribs at Al.
They keep asking me, Minch keep asking me to go on it. I'm like, lads, you don't want me on your tour. I've seen videos. That would not be good for you. Wouldn't it be good for me?
No, exactly.
Yeah, because if you put all the phones in a lockbox and put a timer on it, and they got released the moment you came back off tour.
Yeah,
I'm in.
Yeah.
No.
I just think there is something about, and you've touched on it already, there is something unique about being part of a rugby club. I think you probably would get it with cricket. I don't think football is quite the same. It is just part of brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever it is. And I think you remember the people who really run those clubs.
Yeah, but I think it's a bit more of a positive environment as opposed to. I mean, our football's great. I know lots of football coaches.
Yeah.
I know like Mark Knight and the guys from Toolroom run their Toolroom Academy football team, and they do amazing stuff down there. But obviously, at Grassroots Rugby, no one's going to shout across the thing CUNT and then offer someone out. Really,
that's what Eddie Hearn was saying last week. I like a bit of that. We should have more of that rugby.
Yeah, I just think it's a bit difficult when your kid
coffees.
goes, "Daddy, what does this mean?" You're like, "Oh,
yeah.
you know."
And we all remember school coaches as well. I think it's when you talk grassroots.
I was lucky. I was some great. I mean, I listened. I played at Maidenhead from 5 years old to 16, and 17. Well, sometimes I actually went in when I was not at Wasps. Shouldn't have been playing, but I did anyway. Yeah, and I had amazing coaches. Gordon McDonnell was one of them. I had, obviously I had guys at Wellington as well. You know, Mr. Hopkins, Doug Lang. All these guys were brilliant. Yeah. And that's put up with me, which is fantastic. So
they definitely deserve sort of freedom of the town of Maidenhead.
Yeah, the town of Maidenhead. Yeah, but Maidenhead was wicked. I remember, you just like I said, you get a pint of blackcurrant and lemonade, a chomp bar that was it 10p for a chomp? Now like £8 for a chomp.
Yeah.
When a Freddo was like 15p and now they're like £8 for a Freddo. It's just mad, isn't it? Sausage roll, sandwich, chips, little talk,
Anyone you remember? Particularly funny from back in the day?
I remember, but you have to remember that my first actual club that I played for was Minchinhampton when I retired from professionalism. So I didn't do it at school. I played all my rugby was done schoolboy rugby. So, Trevor Barker, who's just retired, well done, Trev. 40 years, I think you were at Quakes, well done. John Chollower, Gary Pickersgill, and then one of the main ones was Jeff Wappett, who was the England 18s coach, who I always thanked it because without him giving me the breaks that he did, because he liked the way I played, he liked that physical element. Who knows where I'd have been? Yeah.
Grassroots heroes and school coaches in at 6.
Yeah.
Are we feeling good about the game off the back of this? This is raising morale.
Yes, I think rugby's great. I don't, I think we're just sometimes just speak about facts, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. All right. Because we're talking grassroots, actually, I'm going to promote our Absolute Shirt Show.
But by the way, when you talk about the Absolute Shirt Show, this has got nothing to do with us.
Yes, we have not agreed to this at all. This is your own standalone feature.
Are we not enjoying Absolute Shirt Show?
I have nothing to do with it.
This is where we feel that you have input into the show.
This is where what you've really pioneered and what you've brought forward and pushed.
I want to help.
And if you want to give us feedback on this,
go on. It's your moment.
Yeah.
What a fucking pair of penises.
No, but go on.
I was trying to get really nicely into the Absolute Shirt Show section of Good, Bad and Rugby because the guys and girls at Hackney RFC have sent in their shirt this week, which sits upon the mannequin behind me. We're trying to give a bit of light and a bit of airtime to the heroes, guys and girls in the club game who deserve a bit of a nod. Hackney was founded in 1963 as an old boys club for former pupils of Woodbury Down Comprehensive School. It grew quickly. It went up the amateur leagues. Disaster struck in 1999 as the clubhouse burnt down, unfortunately. Bereft of facilities, they suffered an exodus of players and plummeted down the leagues. But they hung in there. They have risen again, quite literally from the ashes of their old clubhouse. Strong core values, inclusivity, respect, and a lot of community around Hackney RFC. It's now got 3 senior women's teams, 3 senior men's teams, with a huge, vibrant youth section. Back going strong.
Go on, Hackney.
Go on, Hackney.
And if the world's a stage, someone has to build it.
We hear so many stories of clubs that are losing players, going bust, shutting down, getting boarded up. I like to hear of the clubs that are going well. Hackney RFC, you are our Absolute Shirt Show of the week.
Well done, Hackney.
Marks out of 10?
Well, for that, I loved it. I thought it was positive, lovely, great feeture. Sort of, it wouldn't be out of place on Radio 4. Great. Love it. Really like it.
Moving swiftly on. In at number 5. Do you want to contribute to the top 10 in rugby? Or just sit sapping like an absolute freaking disaster?
Hold on a minute. Wait. If you look at the comments on Instagram.
I thought you didn't do that.
Yeah.
Thought you never read below the line.
No, because some of the staff sent it to me.
I never read below the line.
Some of the staff. Some of the support staff. I don't remember the name because they're support staff. But they sent a link with the basic comments that said Alex Payne just wants to see the rugby world burn. So that you're known as the negative one. And then when you left, someone else commented going, "Oh, now Tyndall's left. They're talking absolute shit. You can both show they don't know anything about rugby. They just want to see it burn." Right. So I got tarred with you a little bit, but it was only because when we said about reducing numbers on the field.
Tarred with me a little bit. Imagine how my fucking career's balancing out working with you.
Well, you're on Channel 4 again. You're welcome.
Channel 5.
Channel 5, you're welcome. Channel 5, you're welcome.
It's nothing to do with you.
Well, I think so. The kudos that we bring,
They
being
said,
two
do you want to come
international
and present
ministries.
bars against the rest of the world, I think it is. I'm not quite sure I haven't done my research yet. I said, do you want Hask and Tins? No, thank you.
Well, it's interesting you're doing like
no.
Wiggy's Testament, all little side projects without bringing the two of us in.
What?
Trying to earn cash on the side without going, I could get, well, do you want the three or a bit expensive?
Wow.
Tech companies
Wasn't
going
it
down
Green
the pan,
King
isn't
that
it?
came to us and said, guys, we love what you're doing with the pod. Why don't we do something together? And just
that's not true.
Hask on every freaking billboard on the tube. And we're like, where's that six-figure deal
Have a
gone?
pint, yeah? Green King. No, that was absolute rubbish, thank you.
That's not rubbish.
They were already interested in me.
This is a positive show. You cannot help but flatten the tyres on every bit of positivity we try and produce. Right, in at number 5, the competitiveness of the Premiership.
Yeah, it is.
Great. Thanks for coming. You can fuck right off.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, thank you. Yeah, no, it is.
I think the Prem, and I've got real problems with the lack of relegation. I've got real problems with a team with a league with 11 teams in it. But on a week-to-week basis,
is that your OCD? Like, doesn't
yeah,
feel like
I don't like odd-numbered leagues. I've got a real thing about it.
The 11 teams is just something that's
Well, I know.
called upon. It's
Yeah, of
nothing you
course.
can predict.
We
But
can rest
again-
assured that one of them will disappear soon. So we'll be back to normal.
Back to the normal.
Yeah,
Another club gone bust.
yeah. Yeah.
13 points between third
We
and
take that
ninth.
as a positive.
Yeah,
well, at
that's
least
it.
we're back to even numbers.
The Premiership apparently works better with 10 teams and you make more money out of it. It's financially better. So
yeah.
actually, it's a negative positive.
Negative positive. Right. Why is the quality of the Prem, regardless of all the sort of problems around it, why is the quality of the week-to-week on-field product as good as it is right now?
Because every team is now has, you know, there's no easy teams back in the day. You know, every team now is as fit and as strong and as professional and as dedicated as they've ever been. There is a rich pool of talent, and I think actually bizarrely,
what was it called? The uncoachable bits, the work rate,
intangibles.
What was the phrase that someone used to use?
The bits required no skill,
So basically, those bits are all
Those bits, good content.
No,
That's why people tune in.
You're right. It was something they used to say about, but basically it's the bits in the game that require no skill.
Yeah, we've had that. Yeah,
but that's it. That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
So
This you were good at then.
The fitness, the fitness,
Fitness, post avoidance.
Fitness, lifting weights, fitness,
looking after yourself,
being selfish.
You're good at that.
The word that they use, but everyone's at that same level. So then, and now with how young kids are coming through with skill sets to burn as well, you're now seeing that on the field. You're seeing unbelievable finishes. This weekend in the Heineken Cup, you're getting those NFL style touchdown finishers. We're diving in the corner. Freddie Clark this weekend for Gloucester, 17, 18 stone man diving one-armed in the corner and getting it down for a great try. I think there was 4 this
That was like me trying to get into bed without waking anyone up this week.
It goes back to Johnny May's, was that against Italy, that he dived over the top about 4 feet. We haven't had the forward somersault yet that they get in the NFL every now and again, but I don't think that's allowed in our game. But
no, you can't jump into a tackle. So it's a bit of a grey area, isn't it? Like people flying into the corner, but then Johnny May just jumped sort of 3 meters before.
Yes.
So that was a bit questionable.
Do you think there's something in the salary cap being more heavily policed that has, I was going to say condensed the league. Salaries are so far ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. But then if you go top four contest is still ridiculously tight.
Yeah.
Down to.
You could probably go down to Gloucester, 13 points.
Yeah.
Between.
Yeah,
London
Gloucester
Irish
bombed it, unfortunately, at Newcastle probably. I think it is. I think that, but what we would say about rugby, where it is at the moment, is tight. Everyone can beat anyone, and this league's no different. You think of how long Bristol were at the bottom at the start of the league, and now they've got a good chance that they could still make playoffs.
Yeah.
So, I think that is a good thing because people will go to games not knowing what's going to happen, and they enjoy watching it. And I think the quality of the tries and the skill sets are good at the moment.
So the laws have improved the product as much as the work that's being done off the field.
But it's interesting.
Interpretation of the laws.
Well, it's interesting around also what you say in terms of players. What is an exodus, as you're saying, an England player exodus, and the reducing the salary cap is also another opportunity for homegrown talent to play in the Premiership. You look at what. I know everyone's sad about what's going on in Wales in terms of, a lot of those guys without contracts. But at the same time, I think it's the WRU going, okay, we know that these guys can play international rugby, but our biggest problem is we've got a lot of ageing players that we don't have the next the next up and comers coming through. If we can get someone else to pay these guys wages, now we've dropped the cap ruling to 25. We know that they can go get paid elsewhere, and someone else can pay their salary, and we can work on what's the next generation. So, it's a different way of looking at it, a more positive way of looking at it, as long as those guys get jobs.
That is a very good point, actually, because I think there's no shortage of talent. Do you know what I mean? You just don't know it yet. You just don't know who those people are. Like, actually freeing up space might mean you might find another Harry Arundel or something like that.
For years, we were paying other countries talent pools
to develop their
salaries.
Talent. Yeah.
Sale, how many South Africans there were at Sale? There's still a few, but there
French.
was loads. Over the history, Saracens and how international their team was. Now, you get into a point where the teams are with the money they get back for having English qualified players. I think you'll find that we'll end up bringing up the next generation, and those guys who have reached the top should be allowed to go and earn their money wherever they want to.
Again, and like I say, you're going to give more exposure. So if there's a vacancy, it's not like the Premiership's not going to happen every season. They'll just fill those places with more young talent. You'll find people emerge. I think. I think the only thing with it is maybe England looking at allowing players to play abroad if they are.
They've got to now.
Yeah.
If you're going to reduce the salary cap by that much, you have to allow people to travel and earn their money wherever, and then you have to bring them back in.
Will they make that change though? No. Should they? Yes.
I do think the Premiership in the next 2-3 years is going to go through quite a lot of change. And I think it will get itself sorted out.
I think it'll still be good. I just think if you think about
how
many kids
at the moment,
play.
it feels like a bit of a sort of stuck together job. I have got a problem with this 11 teams in a top flight league. I find that really weird.
Yeah.
It's OCD, but let me have it.
Yeah, what did you want to do? You can't win two.
Well, no, you can't now, but that's my point. I don't think it will end up with 11 teams.
It does need sorting out. I was about to go to only problem, but we're not doing problems.
No, we're not. We're going to keep positive.
You just cut Newcastle off because nobody wants to travel up there that far. And the furthest team up is Sale. And then we get rid of Exeter. It's the perfect trip. You can go there and back in a day.
Saris have got a home semi and are looking hot to trot. Who else joins in the top four?
On the weekend on Saris.
No, we're going to come on to that.
Oh, okay.
Saris, top of the log, home semi-final. Who is going to join them in the last four? Pick us your semi-finalists.
For the Europe?
No, for the Premiership. I think
you can just nod off for this. I'll ask Tins.
I think Sale. I think Sale and Leicester, and then I actually want London Irish to make it.
Be an amazing story, wouldn't it?
Amazing story. Plus the rugby that they play is just a pleasure to watch. And at a beautifully looking Brentwood Stadium, I think it makes me feel good. It's like it gives me Suncorp. If the sun's out, they're bright
Jesus,
seating.
never has Brentford been described as Brisbane before.
That's
they
play
like.
that sort of rugby, and it's great to see.
Good.
I thought London Irish still played.
We're talking about positivity here.
Yeah, I know you're doing a very good job.
I thought
I'm
London
with you.
Irish still played at the Medeski.
Sunbury, whichever one it was.
I genuinely thought that.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. It is a miracle we're still doing.
Venter's a great coach.
Yeah, exactly. Barry Everett at 10.
Yeah. Is he retired?
Barry? Didn't Barry? He went to Northampton.
Still doing well. Isn't Saki playing for Irish still?
Barry Everett apparently went to Northampton, and they gave him like a 4-year contract when he was 34, and I can't remember the story, but something like they didn't read his date of birth correctly, and so when he said, "Oh, brilliant, I'd like a 4-year deal," they were like, "Yeah, cool, we'll do that," and he was still playing at 38.
What's the way to do it?
I can't remember that's true.
Nonu still going.
Where's he playing? San Diego Legion. Is he?
Playing well
San
as well.
Diego.
San Diego. Wales vagina. I thought he did.
They said the meaning was lost.
Yeah. Diversity is an old wooden ship. I don't think it's right, Ron. Genuinely.
Let's agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep going?
No offence. No offence, but you're a fucking asshole.
Up the Prem. Do we need relegation back, by the way?
No.
Or would you have a playoff?
Yes.
Would you have a playoff?
No.
No, you're done.
I wouldn't.
Would you have a playoff?
You need relegation. Yes, I didn't mind the old playoff games.
I can remember going to... Have I said this before? I've got memory loss. I remember going to watch Coventry against London Irish, actually, back in the days when Jez Harris was playing for Coventry. And I had 9 pints of Guinness in 80 minutes and got punched at Reading train station. I think I was sick. I got knocked out of a train in the old cabins, in the
really?
mail van.
Angry Japan.
That was a great day.
Was it? Fighty.
Drink responsibly,
sick on your shoes, just blood coming out your nose. You come stumbling in.
That's exactly how it went. I didn't get knocked down, though, actually, which served me well.
Well, you did right, yeah.
Battered Curzon the other day. Right, talking of that, we're going to be at Twickenham Stadium for this year's Gallagher Premiership Final. Don't miss it. You can get your tickets at eticketing.co.uk/Premiership Rugby. And that leads us into number 4, because I have gone with the things that we love most about rugby right now is the fact that Ireland are number 1 in the world. And that sort of has a much bigger context to it. But when I think of all the rugby I watched growing up, Ireland were an absolute shambles. And they did well to get 15 on the field, facing the right way. And I just love the fact that, you know, the Ireland, the only sport that unifies the country, or unites the country, I just think they're a phenomenal story. And there are other bits that fall out of that.
And the guiding light to how Northern Hemisphere rugby should set up their how they run it.
Yes,
you know, strength and depth from schools, college to club rugby that all feed into their 4 provinces, that
4 proud provinces
of Ireland.
Back to number 10. Let's start again. In at number 10,
standing tall.
But they, you know, that show how strong they are. 51,000 between Leinster and Ulster. You know, shows how well the game is. Obviously feeds off the back of the international success, but it's just a factory that's going round and round. They've found the right mix of what makes it work at the moment, from coaches that are creating good rugby and to what's appearing on through to talented players that are playing it.
I think it feeds into the point you were making earlier about the fact that the game is really tight now. You look at the Premiership, you look at Europe, you pick us a winner from those quarterfinals, it's going to be very difficult to do. And at the top of the international game, I did that ridiculous thing the other day where every team has beaten every team that's beaten every team type thing. I think it was in November. And it started with Georgia being beaten by Italy and then Georgia beating Italy. I can't remember how it went, but everyone is beating everyone. You look at the change in that hierarchy and how competitive it now is. Ireland winning in New Zealand would have been unheard of 5-6 years ago, winning a test series down there. You think of France, who are just, you know, this extraordinary outfit now after years of infighting and division. You know, New Zealand, we're not even talking about New Zealand now, but they are still more than capable of winning the World Cup in 6 months' time.
It'd be interesting if you go back to, you know, France when they were in disarray, how many foreign players were playing in their best teams.
They've now got the GIF rule, which is really boosting their numbers.
They've always had the GIF rule, but
wasn't enforced.
But they used it to their game where they pay all the people that they paid underneath. So every squad player was GIF qualified,
right?
But they knew they could never go any further. So you were paid to be shit,
just to make up the numbers.
Yeah, to make up numbers. Whereas now, off the back of what they've done in the under-20s, it seems that they've flipped that mentality around. You know, now that the clubs are actually talking to the union and everything else. It's all done on this group of players that they flipped around and realized and finally identified how talented they were, and now it's sort of changed everything around. And you look at, you know, when French is basically the French barbarians, the B team turned up at Twickenham, they just gave England a serving then because they've got that many good quality players all the way through.
Yeah. Would you add to that? Why do you think the top of the game is as condensed as it is right now?
Again, I think it comes from the same point. Everyone's as professional now. Everyone's as dedicated. Everyone's invested their time in strength and conditioning. I think the next iteration of that development is the psychological stuff, and I think that happens actually by accident in some teams, but also someone like Andy Farrell. You know, when we talked to Johnny Sexton about the the stuff, getting people to come in and talk about it, you know, whether that was former players, people who explained, you know, the difficulties in Ireland and how important it was coming together, and just kind of those psychological things that help by proxy as opposed to maybe speaking to a psychologist. I think the teams that can gather that and get that right are great. I mean, you see it happen with someone like New Zealand, where backs against the wall and they're all a bit hurt because they've never had that sort of losing streak, and then they come together and then they build confidence. That in itself is a psychological development, whether they intended to have it or not. So I think for me, that's why it's so close. I think the top of the game's in brilliant form. Everyone can beat everyone. And I think the games. I think everyone can beat everyone, but I don't think the fans are caught up with the fact that everyone can beat everyone. I don't think they understand. I think there's still the perception that this should happen and this should happen, forgetting that actually the margins now for error are so small, and actually all it takes is a team to be 2 or 3% off, lose 3 scrums, against the head, and you can lose a game. You know, penalty count drifts forward. You know, you play in the wrong areas for a particular set of time. that can change the game, where it's not a profound difference, whereas people think teams suddenly become crap overnight. So I think the game's in a really, really good place. I think it's fantastic that Ireland are number 1 in the world. I think it's great to see Tins has changed his tune after the years of hatred and vitriol that he delivered towards the Green Army.
This is positivity.
I still
this
get
is a positive
people
show.
always go, it's nice of you to change from hating the Irish.
I never hated. I know you didn't. Yeah,
I've never spoke. I never since
just told the truth.
Yeah, about Joe. The way they played under Joe Smith was poor, and it didn't enhance.
Well, at the end, there were times when they played quite well under Joe Smith.
Yeah, but it was all done in the same way. And I said, at some point, people are going to figure out how to beat them, and once someone's figured it out, they'll lose all the time. And they did.
Mystic Mike.
I told you so.
And then Farrell and Catty and Easterby and everyone, all the coaching and Paulie O'Connell have managed to do is, I think Paulie O'Connell's got hold of the forwards, and they've created an expansive game where now you see James Lowe touching the ball attack. Now you know who Hugo Keenan is because he never fucking saw him before.
Yeah.
And now we've got Matt Hansen who's come onto the scene. So I think it's just been a positive move on from the. But to give Smith his due, he built the basics, the nuts and bolts were already there, and what it's allowed.
But he's back to New Zealand. He's helped them get back on path. So
yeah.
All positive.
Number 4, Ireland number 1 in the world rankings, which sort of leads into a very condensed top of the rugby world right now. And actually, we're going to keep it positive, but I do think that's an area. The women's game is slowly making strides. But they've got a long way to go. They are playing catch up.
You can't.
But we are seeing some progress.
Yeah.
We're seeing Wales and Scotland.
Well, Italy around France close on the first weekend. Yes, it was miserable weather. They came down to earth with a bump against the Red Roses on the weekend. But
room for growth.
Yeah.
Interesting you talk about Ireland number 1 in the world, because in at number 3 in the top 10 things we love most about rugby is the Rugby World Cup. Will it be Ireland's party in September? We've obviously got 2 months of, I'm so excited about it already, in that late autumnal sunshine in the south of France. I've thrown in Australia 2027, which I think is a tournament to save the game down in that part of the world with Eddie at the helm. I think it's going to get very exciting. And then we've got a US World Cup to look forward to in 2031. Yeah, Rugby World Cup in at number 3.
It's going to be interesting, actually, because we know how good Japan was.
Yeah,
we lived it.
Yes, we did.
Now, the thing about Japan was it all seemed to condense back to Tokyo.
Yeah.
Whereas this World Cup, obviously, France is the biggest supporting rugby nation on the planet. So I'm hoping it's going to just be mind-boggling whether you're watching in Bordeaux, whether you're watching in Marseille, whether you're watching in Paris.
But you're on the cruise with us.
Good plug.
I think when it'll get really good is when it all just moves. When you get to the final stage and it moves into Paris and you're just walking into, I say what we had in Tokyo was like a clubhouse where you went in there was about 4,000 caps just having a beer at the bar, and people are like walking and going.
I didn't get invited to that. Me and Alex from the outside. You were in there.
We were cleaning the windows.
I was like pressed up against the window, with breath, writing in my own breath.
Yeah,
help me, can I come in?
No.
Tins.
Sorry, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Rugby World Cup in at number 3. So I think I'm right in saying it's the 3rd biggest sporting event on the planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that sort of part of this show is very interesting is that we are hearing and reading so much crap about the problems in the game right now. Not crap. We are hearing so many problems in the game right now. Is Rugby World Cup France 2023 going to redress the levels of positivity we feel about the sport right now?
Yes, 100%,
in a major way.
And also because it's more accessible than Japan, simply because it's over in France, getting over Eurostar for most people. Obviously, people are closer to France than they are Japan. I think more teams would be. So you get an opportunity for more fans to go over there. So I think stadiums will be full. I think the spectaculars. Obviously, France is an amazingly beautiful place with lots of heritage. Every region has a little thing that it does, and it's just a lot of wine, a lot of bread. A lot of cheese.
You can make a good World Cup tour if you're just going as a fan, can't you?
And when you ever played away games, like just the post-game spread, like in England, you get some big dinner lady called Debbie serving up chips and a sausage. Right in France, it's like a full
vol au vent.
It's like as far as the eye can see, just of saucisson, foie gras, just everything.
Foie gras.
Canard, poulet,
le S.
Onions just appeared.
Frites, everything. Oh no! So I was just pissing by the cafe when I saw Renee with that lady.
All right, Clouseau. Interesting if we're being positive about this. Did you see the law change about the red card now that they're going to roll out into the Rugby World Cup, which is you go off with a yellow and then quietly the TMO will determine.
Brilliant.
Good.
Who's done that? Someone's come out and made an executive decision.
Someone's made an executive.
This is the most positive show we've ever done.
I know, but what's good about that is that God forbid we have a tournament where the great occasion is spoilt by a reactive decision that is a panic purchase.
So this is how it should go. Question mark, yellow card, you're off.
Yeah.
And then they secretly, quietly do it.
Without
no
the crowd
replays.
making the noise and the slow-mo. So Freddie Stewart would be a perfect example.
It would have been yellow carded, and then they would have stuck with the yellow card.
Excellent. Well done, the Power Brokers. Finally, you've stepped up.
So that is a positive for Rugby World Cup 2023.
Yeah, that's massive.
Yeah,
because it just
Big Bill Bowman,
you just need to get onto it, take the pressure off the referee, because it's not even going to be the TMO, is it? It's a completely independent person who I don't even know whether you'll know who they are.
Yeah. Well, like an executioner back in this with a hood.
Yes.
Like nobody knows his identity. Just it comes in a blacked out van.
Yeah.
There's 8 of them. I love that. And they just sign it.
And then they've made it a bit of show on the side that he comes up and he whips the yellow card. If it's a red card, he whips their head off. Sickles them.
Yeah. Imagine that. Just press the button. You don't know which one's got the ejection
That
in
would
it.
be amazing.
Get
Graham Norton chair. If you sat in the yellow
chair. Exactly.
And there's a little trapdoor behind you. Just fall back.
And a guy with a hood. A guy with a hood's like that, and people go, ooh.
Yeah.
That
would be quite good theatre.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah.
The old gladiator.
That would be amazing.
They're going to have to they're going to have to think of how they announce that it's going to be upgraded from a yellow to a red.
All right, the boys are back in town. The boys are back. It comes back on like that, giving it that to the crowd like fireworks go off. That would be amazing.
Kenny fucking Powers.
Kenny fucking Powers. Glitter. I'm a real American as he's riding like a thing being pulled by a man of
you gallop round the pitch for like your 10 minutes.
Come on. Stop it. Unlucky ref. See you later, motherfucker.
Did I tell you the Freddie Stewart, he had his disciplinary hearing on the same night as the Richard Wigglesworth testimonial, which is the line that started this entire show.
Yes.
So there were 300, 400 people for Wiggy's testimonial, and Freddie Stewart was sitting. He is very Freddie student. He was sitting in the next door room on a Zoom call, so we all had to be quite quiet at various points of the evening as he was up in front of the judge, jury, and executioner. Anyway, he was in there for, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say this, he was in there for 3.5 hours deliberating. God. Was it or was it not a red card?
Off.
Anyway, when he came back in, he had it's a free Freddie, like the whole room went bananas, took a pint, sat, everyone else had gone, he was sitting eating his steak on his own.
I didn't, do you know what the best thing about this?
Wasn't going home for anything.
People don't appreciate, like, I saw some post the other day about the drug testers, right? I think it was, I don't know which athlete, like a female athlete was talking about it, that someone turns up to your house, they have to watch you urinate, right? So for a woman, it's from the knees up to the navel. So they have to see you pass urine so you can see it. With a man, they have to see your penis and you have to do a big boy wee.
Trouble for you, that.
They have to shake
it. I'm sorry, I'm just nervous. It'll be here in a minute.
They have to shake it for you. They have to ring it out and shit. No, but they have to watch you do it. You have to pee in a... People don't appreciate that. Same thing with those hearings. It's not like you just go in there and go, I didn't do it. It's a full official court proceeding. You've got representation. Yeah. Sometimes you have the QC. You have video evidence, testimony. It's like a proper nose off. Yeah. You just don't expect it.
Well done, Freddie Student. Yeah. Free man.
Free Freddie.
Free Freddie. Don't forget, talking of Rugby World Cup, that we have got a World Cup after party that's going to be taking place in the autumn this year. Do come and join us if you haven't already. Tickets are flying, apparently. Guildford, London, Swansea, Cardiff, Edinburgh, Northampton, Reading, Oxford, Leicester, Birmingham, Southend, Exeter, Plymouth, Newcastle, Nottingham, Manchester and Bath. Tickets are on sale now. Click a link or have a little Google and you will find the right place to come and buy some tickets.
And I'm still on tour. Sex, Drives, Videotape still flying.
Going well, is it?
Richmond Theatre did the other day.
Yep.
500, 600 people. Oof. Went really well. And I actually used the first part of it to finish my podcast, The Moose Douche, about my stand-up.
Oh,
so it's the perfect crime, really. Good. And I'm in Cardiff tomorrow and then...
Are you? How are your energy levels?
And then the week after that, very good. I've got Coventry, Plymouth. I'm DJing after Plymouth. So much. If you want to go to jacehaskell.com for tickets, grab some now because there are some still available.
Or goodbadrugby.com for tickets to November.
jacehaskell.com for
goodbadrugby.com.
Well, goodbadrugby.com
for your tickets for this autumn's tour for the World Cup after party.
What we've just shown again is Hask's money is more important than ours.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Hello, Green King.
I'm before you.
What?
Your tour is in November, December.
Yours?
No,
you'll be off by then.
I'm not promoting this tour because I'm on my tour.
I haven't moved on tours yet.
No, that's what I mean. I haven't moved on. I haven't got over it.
Goodbadrugby.com.
jacehaskell.com.
Tickets
really funny, interesting. Well, you're not held back by anybody.
Yeah, goodbadrugby.com.
You cut the sea anchors dragging you down with your humour.
Goodbadrugby.
Yeah.
You're playing to 200-300 people. I think we're doing 3,000-4,000,
In 1945, rugby was first invented, and they were called... Mine's just absolute shagging stories, laughter, but what actually goes on, all the stuff you love about the pod.
Which is why you're so desperate to get some tickets.
No, I've had a couple of sellouts, thank you.
Couple? Have you what?
Yeah,
300-seater stadiums?
Okay, I tell you what, if you want to play that game, I won't come on your fucking tour, and we'll see how amused people are about that. Really, how
we sold most of the tickets already, so tickets will be absolutely fine.
When they find out I've left, james.com for secretarized videotape.
Goodbadrugby.com.
At this point, no refund.
No refunds. Yeah.
Goodbadrugby.com.
I may not be turning up for that one.
Right.
So.
Yes, perfect. Hopefully not. In at number 2, nothing else like it in sport, perhaps bar the Ashes, the Lions.
Oh, yes. Amazing. I mean, yeah, amazing. I think it is incredible. Actually, no, we're very, very positive. I think there's nothing like it. It's the greatest childhood dream that any player can have. It brings all the best elements of rugby together. Characters, fun, laughter.
Tour stories.
And again, they literally went away for 6 months. Literally took them a year. The whole year out just to go on one tour, and they're like 85 games or something they played. People were having children.
The original tours,
the original tour, the captain died.
Yeah. Well, the original tour,
water rafting accident.
The original tour, they had to get on a boat, like
Yeah, they've rowed to Australia.
Honestly,
like a sea shanty.
It was like that bucket biscuits with weevils in it, weevils, rum,
They were hoisting up the Johnby.
Yeah. I mean, it is just very, very special. It means, I still think it is one of the most special things in sport, full stop. 20,000, 30,000 heading to Australia in 2 years' time. 1997, still one of the greatest sports stories ever told. And I think picking your Lions 15 is arguably the greatest pub sport game there is.
Yeah, I agree. And do you know what the interesting thing? I think living with Lions on that night has defined so many people's interest in rugby.
Yes.
And I think because there wasn't sort of cancelling or concern, it was
social
actually
media for those
social was a bit more freer to be quite amusing. Austin Healy and all the kind of bits he was doing around, and John Bentley, Bentos,
But
right?
then the
Bentos.
stories that were, what we hoped that we'd get out of the Netflix documentary of the Six Nations. When Doddy got his knee stamped on, and you go through the emotional roller coaster. Will obviously.
Neil Jenkins
vomiting his own tongue. People realising what actually goes on in a changing room.
Johnno having his eyes stitched back up and sent back.
Just
put some stitches in it.
Now you'd have to put a trigger warning on that in case someone saw blood and little Timmy was sick on himself and had to go home. It's making me feel bad. We've got to take your feelings into account. So just shut up. There's some man bleeding. We're going to war here. It's rugby. Grow up. Bore off your nose.
But that's what we talked about with Lol, and then the 2003 moment is that, going when you were a forward back then.
Yeah.
And you remember what some of those tour games were. You had it was a completely different mindset going into a game than what it possibly is.
Go some properly dark places.
Martin John's autobiography about Lions saw 97 as well. Brilliant. I read that as a child. Really enjoyed it.
We're not reading at the front of the bus when he was coach. Just sort of, Martin, just reading your book.
No.
Pick me.
No,
don't pick me. No.
He just kept looking at me like he wanted to strangle me with his big giant mitts.
Protect the Lions.
Oh, 100%.
Do we? How do we get more from the Lions?
Give them more time, commercialise it even more if that's possible, and make it stand. Bin one of these rubbish tournaments off that no one cares about. Give the players more time.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think it's the question now is the hardest question now is player welfare is obviously the most important thing, and the Lions gets the brunt end of it because none of the key stakeholders in the game really own any of it. It's its own private business, so they don't want to. So you're talking about the amount of games on that tour shrinking because they need to give players time off to go back into bin off some of the game. Maybe go back to what we talked about a long time ago, where we build a global season that everyone plays the same amount of games. It's like it'd be so simple.
It would be so simple, yeah.
Okay, last but not least. Oh no, we shouldn't actually forget Women's Lions Tour on its way as well. And I love the fact they're going to go to some different places.
Yeah, but
it has to be its own identity.
It's going to have to be built differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where are they going to go?
Well, they probably will go to New Zealand, but possibly France, possibly USA.
I thought you were going to say like, Peru or
Tobago,
Cavos or
Iron
Appa.
That's a tour. Yeah,
that would be a tour.
I think they'll go to some rugby heartlands, but they'll go to the top of the women's rugby tree.
No,
No, you're not. Sit down and be quiet. Right. Drum roll, please, because the thing we love most about rugby union right here, right now, is
the Six Nations, Alex.
Because
it's the most. It's a seminal tournament in the rugby calendar. There is nothing better. The rivalry, the tradition, the passion, the away days, the
Are you being
jeopardy.
sincere, or are you just?
Pardon?
Are you being sincere, or are you?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
It's a positive show.
Doing it quite in a weird way.
But he was doing it in a quiet. Yes, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But, but I knew you.
Oh, fucking hell. Right, you're not giving me a critique on how I talk on the pod, are we?
Yeah, well, the feedback session for last week is coming in.
Yeah.
No.
It's this guy here. But genuinely,
Look, he's wearing his power top red.
Go.
Just to let you know.
Alpha male top alpha.
Alpha's sat over there.
Oh yeah, no, but there's 2 alphas in the room. Basically it's amazing, and I love it. And I think we both grew up on playing it. It's amazing. It's just fantastic, and it's getting better and better.
what is your earliest Six Nations, Five Nations, Six Nations memory? What would be the tournament that you watched and thought?
Actually, bizarrely, my earliest memory I think is when was it 2001 we lost the Grand Slam to Scotland.
Yeah. 2000.
2000. Where Gregor Townsend was absolutely on fire.
Duncan Hodge.
Duncan Hodge. Sorry. I knew it was someone in Scotland.
I knew it was the wrong year, wrong player.
Yeah, I knew it was something like that.
Seared into our brains.
Yeah, no, but I remember
2001 we lost the
in Ireland.
Ireland one. Yeah.
What was your earliest Five Nations, Six Nations memory?
Mine would have been, I reckon, 1990.
Yeah, that would be me. Remember England beating Wales and Rory Underwood scoring an interception try from underneath his own posts, went the length. Carling scored as well.
I
remember watching Simon Gagan as well, going, I don't understand how his body works.
Yeah, that was
his
very.
elbows run
He had
at
like
that angle
corkscrew
whilst
leg,
his
didn't he?
his legs are like circling as they run.
Do you know who passed away the other day? Which I didn't know. We're talking about Six Nations was David Duckham.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I know? One of the loveliest men.
Invented the fucking
hips.
the fall away dummy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a lovely
Lovely
man.
bloke.
And I used to do so many dinners with him, so much work with him,
Yeah.
and I had no idea. I mean, I literally remember sitting with him at a dinner, and he wasn't great.
Yeah.
Because I was like joking with him. I was like, "Christ, you're about to expire at the table," and he didn't look particularly well. But
unfortunately, it was the next day.
Yeah, no, working with me. Once I'd invoiced him for all the travel,
Yeah.
I sent him over the edge. But one of the most delightful men. I was really sad to see that
lovely
because
man.
he was just brilliant.
And what I didn't realise, because I've never seen him play, is just how good he was.
He was amazing.
Yeah. Known as Di Duckham in Wales because of how incredible he was.
Yeah. I know. Just when you see those legends and guys who were just such quality
Yeah.
and also great people and loved to laugh. He put on those best events. He used to host them, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was just brilliant. And I got to work, and as I said, it was sad.
And that is part of what makes the Six Nations so special, is it is steeped in history and rivalry. Every game has its own value.
But why it's brilliant right now is it's been through its low points where we haven't got great quality of rugby. The last 3-4 years, it's got all the history, it's got everything else, it's got 12 million people watching it at peak viewing. It's got the rest of the world looking in at it because it's got 3 of the top 5 teams in the world in it. It's got at the moment a rejuvenated Italy looking to play the right way. Yes, they're not getting the results. England are on a little bit of a slump at the moment, but could still always upset the apple cart, what we've talked about. And same with Wales, they're on a rebuilding process. But to watch every game of this Six Nations was great to watch. Was put down your phone, sit down and enjoy it.
Big crowds as well.
Massive crowds. 4 different winners in 4 years, which I love. It means everybody is coming and going, as it were. I also think we've spoken a lot about the women's game, but the fact they have moved the women's game to its own window is really beneficial.
Yeah.
And we're seeing
Massively.
the growth and the interest that comes off the back of that.
So this is something, and sorry, I'm going off on a big tangent here.
Okay.
Why does the amateur game and the professional game not slightly do what they've done with the women's game, and you sit it slightly different? Because you're losing a lot of people who want to come and watch the game because they're playing it.
Should be a sum up game.
What, for the top level?
Yeah, for the top level, of course. 100%. I keep saying it, but nobody's listening.
How many more people
Why
would
don't you
come
love
through
me?
the games? Because I thought about this the other day, the amount of massive rugby fans who will. I know obviously then it fills the coffers of a rugby club because they'll sit behind and watch it, but a lot of time they're out on the pitch.
But they go there on the summer and have a full day tear up at the clubhouse and stay later and do it better. It's a better.
That's a very good point.
It is, yeah. It's honestly, I just don't know why everyone doesn't listen to me. Well, just let me as president of World Rugby, and I promise you, I'll sort everything out within 3 weeks. I genuinely mean
Sir Bill
this.
Beaumont, you've heard it here. I can give you Hask's number. We'll have it done in 3 weeks.
I genuinely
You
mean
sound
this.
so like Donald Trump.
I genuinely mean
and have
this.
Ukraine sorted
yeah.
in 10 minutes.
So good, perfect. I probably know more about rugby than anyone else.
You've got a similar
Good,
criminal record
excellent,
to Donald
perfect,
Trump, actually.
Perfect. You know, he was a brilliant guy. Worked with Bill all the time. He's good. Probably I know more about it than anyone. I could do it.
Do you sometimes get mistaken for American as well?
No, never, never. But don't worry.
We love the
Just give me
Six
the
Nations.
expense card, Bill. You relax. That's what I do. 3 weeks,
Back on
I could
Kitty
change the landscape of rugby. I'm not even messing with you. I just walk in and go, we're doing that, we're doing that, we're doing that, we're doing that. Not interested in you, not interested in you. Shut up. Global season gone, done. And I'll tell you what, I'll leave after 2 months.
Oh, rugby would be dust.
It wouldn't. We joined up season.
A bit like Liz Truss
Player
at the
welfare.
top of the
There'll
game.
be no contact training. Concussion stuff will be sorted out in terms of the protocols that are required to do it. There'll be it'll be a summer sport. It'd be I could sort it all out. I just don't understand how they make it look so difficult. They drag it out because how long do they get elected for?
Oh, for eternity.
That's what I mean.
Centuries.
Well, I mean, they've got centuries. Centuries. That guy. Hey. That Bill.
Okay. Right.
I reckon
Six Nations. Best thing about
we should just run as a 3.
We're good
because
friends.
again, I think we cover off all the markets that need.
I'll take
to be
sponsorship deals.
Why don't we all do
on
the three of
shirt
us?
sponsorship deals in the last 25 years. I'll
Joe
have that.
Biden.
I'll be
Joe
secretary
Biden,
for shirt sponsorship.
Joe Biden, Donald Trump.
Can we get
Barack
some
Obama.
interaction on this from? Can we get some interaction on this from
Hillary
From
Clinton.
the people?
Hillary Clinton.
Clinton,
No,
Trump,
I don't want to be
Biden.
Clinton.
You're Clinton.
Can we get some interaction on this?
Cigar in your ass.
Do you think we could sort this out? Let us know.
Do you think I'd have as much trouble getting up aeroplane steps as Joe Biden?
Oh,
Could we? No, I'm just tripping up. Tripping up. He doesn't know.
Air Force done. Right, Six Nations, the
Sleepy
thing we
Joe,
love the most
Sleepy Joe.
about the game right now. I think those are 10 pretty positive
I think it was great. I'm very
aspects
positive.
and reasons to love the sport that we waffle on about on a weekly basis. We did pick a stars of the game 15, but we'll leave that for another day. We are going to wrap it up. I hope that fills your coffers with belief and excitement and rejuvenates your love levels for the game of rugby union after what has been a pretty bruising
Have we replenished
12
your
months.
well of love for the game?
Have we replenished your well of love for the game? Let us know in the comments below. Send us a tweet. Send us an Instagram.
If we
post.
have, please get down your local club and support.
Yeah, there's a lot we've done there.
Was that Donald Trump impression sound anything like? Because in my
No,
head it
no.
sounded...
No.
No. Have another go.
Please shut up.
No,
So, do the end. Do the end bit.
No,
It's Donald Trump. Do the end bit. Do the end.
no.
I've never
Remember when
tried.
we had
I've actually never tried to do it before,
we
so I
used
thought
to-
it sounded in my head. It sounded quite good.
Remember
Do the
when
end bit.
Was it
on
all
our-
right?
On our live
Don't
tour,
forget to
just
subscribe
take
to the
your
Larkin.
inner,
Yeah,
take
no,
your
that's-
inner Rory
doesn't sound
Bremner.
like
That's
him.
not
No,
good.
no.
Okay.
If we should we get Rory Bremner on, you can compare it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's the first time I've ever tried to do it.
Right.
It just came to me in
Don't
that
gi-
moment.
don't-
I think
don't
that's
give
how
up the
I
day
roll.
job.
I saw your eyes roll back. You went somewhere
I
else.
did, yeah, I did, yeah. I did.
Go on,
Into
do the closer. Do the closer as Donald Trump.
What's her name? Melanonia. Melania? What's his missus called?
Melanonia.
Melatonin.
Melanonia.
Catatonia.
Okay. Melanonia.
Our positivity
That's
show
okay.
is falling apart at the
Yeah.
seams.
So
As
positive.
soon as we mentioned Trump.
No, that definitely
Oh,
wasn't
right,
Trump.
I'll get it. I lost it, but I'll come
Do
back
the
to it.
closer as Donald
No,
Trump.
I can't. You
Do
put
it.
too much pressure. No, because
All right,
I was
do it as a Bristolian.
no.
Get
What do
back
we
to
do?
you.
Do it.
Right, lads, don't forget to subscribe to Lock-In if you haven't already. An extra pod we put out most weeks for the super fans. This week we talked about, we haven't recorded it yet, so I don't know, but it'll be something interesting and fun, perhaps. The Good, the Bad and the Rugby is produced by Ant D'Angelo, is a Folding Pocket production. Thank you.
Love you all. Bye.
Bye.